Welcome back to Seat at the Table with me and Betsy. We have a special guest today. We have Andrew Hooper, Big Hoop in the house.
Hey.
Fidelity National Financial. We're excited about this. This has been a long time coming, mainly because I've been asking you for a long time about advice about getting into the podcast game, and you've given me a lot of pointers and ideas through, heck, I guess it's been about 3 years we've been having that conversation. So it was, he was one of the first people that I called when we shot our first podcast, and I was like, we've gotten over the hump.
You have no idea how excited I was to see it. Because it's one of those ongoing conversations we'd been having for years,
right?
And it's kind of I want to do it, but it's not a have to, especially when you're running a business.
Well, it's tough to make it a priority, and so much of running businesses, being in business, servicing clients is where are you putting your prioritization. And then I think one of the things you talked to me about from the very beginning on it was how are you going to show up and do it consistently?
Yeah.
And Vicky is how we do it consistently.
Schedules it for us, and
it's been interesting too, because like even you talk about showing up consistently. I used to originally, when we started this, I wanted to just bring it all in house, do it myself. I was going to figure it out, and I think the toughest part about that is sometimes you just don't have enough bandwidth and you don't have enough capacity to do all the things you want to do. And then it's, okay, let's bring in resources. Let's bring in professionals. Let's go. We work at a outsourced studio, which helps because
it's a great space.
It's a great space. It's allowed us to
do what
get
you're
doing
good
it.
at. Like stick to
just
right?
jibber jabber.
Stick with your.
What's the quote on that? Like, do what you do best and delegate the rest, right?
Yeah.
And
you
got to live by those rules.
And what's Andrew known for being the best? Besides podcasts, I actually was with him yesterday at GBBR. He taught a class. He had a lot of people in the classroom.
They had a good turnout.
AI, and he was walking them through everything that he does with agents and how to make them show up better in social media, have internet presence, how to correct their mistakes.
Your career's been a pretty interesting one. I mean, I always a lot of people think of you as the AI person in the area because you've done a lot of, you've really dove into that, and I think our relationship goes back many years now.
Before really the whole AI conversation was there.
It wasn't even, was not part of it. And so much more of it then was about sales, relationship sales. How are you setting up your cadence? How are you, doing that? And you've been working with us both internally at Eagle, but also with a lot of our agents on that. And, I think that's where it's so interesting to me, because when you start looking at AI and what it can do and what it can't do, and it can assist in relationships, it can assist in getting you information, it can assist you in being efficient, it can do all those things.
Yeah.
But it's really, to me, the part that's missing is about the relationship and where are you enhancing your relationship. And I think if Betsy and I had a conversation with an agent last week, and I took away the crux of the conversation. They were giving us some really helpful feedback. And I got off the phone and I was like, man, that was one of the best calls I've had. It was a rough conversation from the topic that we were talking about, but the relationship that Betsy had built with that person over the years and that I've now started to build, it wasn't transactional. It was a relationship conversation.
And it was out of respect and care.
And love and care,
And making sure that we knew the appearance that we were creating was a good appearance. And But the other thing about Andrew that I think is interesting is he's our agent rep. He's our tie to Fidelity. And I hit him up all the time with emails with questions, right?
Yeah,
I win the prize for the most emails about like out of state?
You do for out of state connections,
Missouri.
Because you're so well connected.
I needed one from Missouri, not Wyoming.
Not Wyoming.
That's the next one. Right?
Betsy always helps me brush up on my state abbreviations. I'm like, which one is this
just
one?
Let me know. I got people in Missouri. I can do that.
Right?
Oh well, we got a connection, which is great because then I go back to the agent who is has a family property in Missouri and trying to figure out the title.
Actually, ironically, right now, the current president of the American Land Title Association, David Townsend, who's also with Fidelity.
Yep.
He's from Missouri himself.
Yeah.
Great
Show me
connection.
And I'm going to be out there in August doing some stuff with our title agents out there. So with
That's
our
awesome.
group. So I'm excited to get out there.
Well,
What
you're
are you
really-
doing? How did you get it? So
Yeah.
how did you become the king of AI? Because
That's
you go
funny.
way
I don't know if
back.
I'm the king. Probably just the liege. I'm still a liege. But there's other people I would say are the kings of AI. It's interesting though, because again, when I met y'all, I was an underwriter rep with a previous underwriter that we worked for. And if you know anything about title insurance, it's not very exciting historically, right? It's kind of, the underwriters especially are kind of behind the scenes. The role that I was filling at the time is a role that people typically who are in the role, they kind of show up, bring donuts, pick up checks, help you get new users signed up.
Picked up policies.
Picked up
before we
policies,
had-
process policies.
Yeah.
So it was very much behind the scenes, and basically it was like just there was not a lot of differentiation in the commodity of a title insurance underwriter. So when I joined title because of my brother Tim, who we all know, we just really were thinking, how do we differentiate and stand out and do things that no one else is doing in the space? And both of our backgrounds, I was in banking for 12 years with Wells and JP Morgan before coming over to that company. And Tim had been worked in manufacturing, but then was a coach, very motivational, written a book, coaching in the lending spaces. So we just tried to bring that philosophy to the title agents we were supporting. I think that's when we started kind of reaching out and prospecting Eagle Title as one of the biggest in Maryland.
Can I tell the prospecting story?
Yeah.
It's actually one of my, most people have never heard this, and I think it's a fantastic story about standing out, differentiation.
Yeah.
Again, this is when you were with a different provider at that point and who didn't really have a huge footprint in this space.
Not at all. I think maybe it was like 2% market share in Maryland.
very
Where,
small.
where were you based then?
I was living outside of Philly at the time,
Okay.
which is not far. I mean,
Yeah,
45 minutes to the Maryland line,
Right,
but yeah.
right. Are there other underwriters in other parts of the country that have an Andrew Hooper, or is this like, is it?
I think,
I broke the mold.
I think we did,
Yeah.
and then now I think here at Fidelity we've really expanded. So yeah, a lot of the
Okay.
regions have brought in a lot of people that do what Tim and I do, and they're in their own way,
Okay.
right, and bring their own value stack. I think the big thing with the differentiation, it can't be like a cookie cutter solution. It has to be something that the people who are bringing the differentiation live and breathe, and like that's who they are. You got to put your personal brand and spin on this
Well, I
stuff.
think that goes to authenticity
relationships.
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right,
And the
right.
way we started our relationship was there was this box showed up at our office, and it had a book in it, and it was addressed to my brother. And we were trying to figure out some different things with sales leadership at the time. And, as we were evolving as an organization, we needed some more additional horsepower around us to do it. And it stood out in a way that there was a handwritten note that went with this book that said, "Hey, I know you guys, were pretty successful at what you're doing. I just thought you might be of interest to this." And ultimately, it was a connector on it. And then Jay said to me, he goes, "I got this. This stood out to me. You need to go set a meeting with these people because they're the type of people that understand who we are and what we do." And I like the fact that it stood out. We started having initial conversations
So it
after
was
that.
Tim's book.
I think it was just a sales book at the time that
okay.
we were. I don't think it was
actual
Tim's,
book,
but yeah,
it was another, and
Yeah.
it was something. And Jay reads a tremendous amount of books. Like he can walk laps around me. After I left law school, like I had.
I'm like a book summary guy. Like
There's-
audio
You-
And
summaries.
you listen. Yeah, you
Yeah.
listen.
There's
to
a couple.
It.
There's a couple books that really have like framed my mindset on either sales or the business world,
Right.
or customer service. And so, like, I kind of have a few that for me really stand out. My favorite book.
Novels? Do you read or no time for that?
There's
I wish I did.
do you-
Someone
you
told me
don't-
it's actually really good for your brain to
Oh
read
my
fiction,
gosh, you got,
and I don't read any fiction.
There's a book right now I'm reading. It's called Theo on Golden, and it's set in Golden, Georgia, and it's about this gentleman in his 80s. And I don't want to spoil it for people that are reading it, but it is a hot read right now.
Okay.
And
We
this
would
woman
enjoy
that
it.
I don't know. It's pretty. Not if you don't read novels. But it's going to be a movie, but I would guess, but
We talking
the woman
Notebook
that
or
maybe no, it's
Okay.
not a love story. But
right, all right.
but this woman
Maybe
that
we
gave
can
it to
read
me
it.
said it's like it changed her life. And basically this gentleman, there's portraits all over this coffee shop that are of people in the town. He buys them and gives them to each person that this subject portrait is drawn of, and it gives it to them as a gift, and he meets person after person after person. He's just in the end of his life, and he wants to give back and develop relationships. And oh my gosh, I read it, and it takes me from the stress of the day. The stress of the day, you can watch TV, you can watch whatever,
Yeah.
but I read this and it kind of puts me in a better place.
My de-stressor now is turned down to
Boating.
well, I love voting. And
of course.
There's
I mean,
a
look
time,
at the tan. I mean,
there's a time and place for it all.
Fishing.
It's music is really the thing that
that's a
brings
good
me
one.
back.
Yeah.
And so I've actually stopped watching a lot of TV.
Yeah.
And it's funny
There's a lot of
because
junk.
there's a lot of junk on there,
So
and
much.
it's not interesting to me. But I also like to cook. But I've started just turning on music videos, and I'll watch the music video and listen to the music as my way of doing it. But
Oh yeah.
going back to those books, the interesting part about it for me when it comes to and again, there's a few things that I think there's a lot of sales books out there, right?
Yeah.
Most of them say a similar thing, but it's the words on how they're written, on how it attaches to a person.
100%.
There's only so much differentiation of concept, right?
I say there's nothing new under the sun in sales.
No.
It's all been taught in one way or the other.
It's all been taught. It's all
So
been
what's
done.
your number one? I want to hear from each of you your number
So
one.
I'll give you a few books that I think are just for various different reasons. So the one that in undergrad, I was a sales and marketing degree, and the book that really spoke to me then was "Swim with the Sharks Without Being Eaten Alive" by Harvey McKay. That has been the one for me that is. I'll go back and read that once or twice a year.
Wow.
Even now, just because I love the stories. It's short little burst stories, and it's telling different strategies through storytelling of how
it's practical.
It's practical.
It's not theoretical.
It was very easy
Yeah.
for me. It's a great read. If you haven't read that one's amazing. Unreasonable Hospitality really changed a lot for me. That book really unlocked some cool stuff in my mind.
Yeah.
There are some good stories in that.
The best part about Unreasonable Hospitality, so that's one of the first ones I started reading in audio or listening to it, and we were going out. We were going out to Deep Creek for a ski weekend a couple years ago when that book first came out, and my whole family was with me, and I'm listening to it in the truck on the way out.
Fun.
And then we had
They love that.
Their kids
yeah.
are
I
probably
know.
plugged into their.
No, so this is the best
they
part.
Were listening
They
to
were
This is the best
locked
part. So the next day, we went out Thursday night. Saturday morning, we had a playoff basketball game, and I was the head coach of that team.
Fun.
So Dean and I got in the truck and left Deep Creek at 5:30, drove back to Crofton to play our game, and turned around and drove back out to Deep Creek. And then we drove home Sunday night or Sunday afternoon.
Wow.
Well,
Did you win the game?
we did win the game.
Okay,
We wound up
all
winning
right.
that championship.
Okay, so it was worth it.
So the
Boys,
kids were just
10U.
tired
Yeah.
listening to this audiobook. It was like the drone.
The rest
was
of the
helping
family
them.
didn't come with us back
Yeah.
on the back
Okay,
and forth. So it was just me and Dean riding in the truck. We had a lot of windshield time back and forth, and he listened to the whole book with me. And I'd say about 2 or 3 months later, we're talking about something, and all of a sudden he's like, "Dad, that's really a great Unreasonable Hospitality moment that we should look at there." And that was the first time
How
where you're
old
like,
is he?
he just turned 12 now, so he was 10 at
Yeah.
the time. But it was so interesting to hear that he was listening. He was taking it in. And, growing up, my dad was a salesman, and he'd constantly be talking about relationship selling. And so it wasn't something where I just learned it one day. You slowly build it over time.
Yeah.
Those are probably my 2 favorite books from that world on it. Just different strategies, different approaches. And I think really Unreasonable Hospitality is so good because it brings a service industry a different flair. To your point, there's not a whole bunch of...
It's based on a restaurant.
Restaurant, 11 Madison Park.
Right, right. And I mean, we can all then understand it because we've been in restaurants where the hospitality is
goodness,
terrible, and then
yeah.
those like.
Well, and
the
bringing
rare
hospitality to the service industry is, I think, there's a huge value to it. And when you can see that, I think when people see that you're doing things thoughtfully, and that actually goes to like when Tim sent Jay that book originally, like there was a thoughtful approach to it. Hey,
Multi-step and thoughtful,
Right.
and it's a phone call, a video,
There's
social
follow-up,
media
there's that.
interaction. It's
And Jay's
drop
into
something in the mail.
handwritten
Yeah.
notes. So what about you, Andrew?
For like
what
new
books?
sales, if you're going after new business, there's two that I really like and have fueled a lot of my philosophy. It's Mike Weinberg's New Sales Simplified, which might be the book we sent you guys, and then Jeb Blount's Fanatical Prospecting.
Bingo.
It's great. And then for like a overall life but business book, Questions Are the Answer by I think it's Hal Gregerson. We did that as a team last year. Amazing.
Do you listen to it?
I read that one.
Okay.
So many sales conversations stall just because we pitch before we know the full picture. And in life and anything, just ask better questions.
And how do you?
Don't be too prepared. Go in and just ask better questions and listen. And it really breaks down what that looks like. So it's really good.
So how did you take those books and use them to help agents?
Yeah. Like just philosophy, right? So it helps you quantify the things you're doing. And the main takeaway from the book, like New Sales Simplified, is all about leading with the client's needs. Knowing those pain points, being able to speak to them, asking questions around them, making the sales conversation not about what I have, but about what you're doing and the solutions that fulfill that.
Did you ever see the movie? I think it was it was either The Intern or The Internship, the one with Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn.
Multiple times.
I'm sure I've seen it.
I
Now,
love
full
those two
disclosure,
together
because
are
we
like
were homeschooled
my-
and fairly sheltered growing up, I haven't seen
You have a lot of
as many
catching up to
movies,
do.
and now my life is too busy and I have no time for movies.
So there's this one scene in it, and they're these two older gentlemen that go back. They're lifetime salesmen. Okay.
Yeah.
They're hawking all this
mattresses,
crap. Yeah,
one of
mattresses.
Oh, the fun stuff.
And watches and pens and just hawking crap,
Yeah.
right? And then they wind up getting this internship at Google, and then throughout their internship at Google, they have.
I have
thing.
seen this years ago.
And
Okay.
so there's this one scene where they're making work in the call center for like tech troubleshooting, and Owen Wilson's character had like done all this research and got himself really technically sound.
Right.
And the reason I bring this up is that I think it's 100% attributable in sales. And
Yeah.
you can see the unprepared
Right.
versus the people who just want to stock language. And the whole thing in there was where Vince Vaughn sits down and his character's like, all right, can you just give me like a one-liner that's not exactly like correct, but it's not incorrect? And then he's like, well, could you just like give me another number to like forward them on to? And they're like, well, if you did that, your phone would just ring again because you are the help desk to help them solve the problem.
Right.
And I think about that with sales a lot because a lot of times people want well, if you could just give me like this one line that's really going to be the magic line. And what, in my mind, in that conversation, what Owen Wilson was really saying is just be technically sound. You don't have to be like a perfectionist.
I knew nothing about title when
Right.
I got into the game.
But you got to ask good questions. Be an active listener.
Yep.
And I think that's where most people, they're so concerned about what the next line they're going to deliver is. They're not listening to the person. They're not asking the question to find where their needs are.
Yeah.
They're not looking to that. And all of a sudden, it's just like, well, I'm just going to word vomit out here all of this stuff and be like, oh, well, we're, one of the state's largest title insurers and we can do blah, 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 blah. If the people if they had a preference that you be a small boutique shop, well, you should be finding that out before you're telling them that you're one of the largest agents in Maryland. You should then be focused on how we have personalized service and that we teams and how do we create a boutique experience for even though we're a larger company.
Right.
But if you don't ask those questions and find that out first, you could actually be
working against yourself.
No one likes that approach. So I think back to the original kind of what we talked about before AI was even in the equation. It was that sales, just better sales, better consistency, trying to bring better value outside of the box that no one else was bringing, and kind of worked. But then right in that conversation, we switched over to Fidelity, which was perfect because you've been, well, I say Fidelity, but F&F, Fidelity National Financial family of companies. But Chicago's been your brand for the longest time, which is one of our brands. So it was just a natural marriage at that point. And then we were just kind of off to the races with all the various things we've done in the partnership over the last couple of years.
What amazes me with Andrew is like I said, I listened to you speak yesterday to agents. And for someone that never was an agent, I know you were in banking, but never an agent, never in title insurance. The way you connect with agents in that room, it's a talent. You are really, really good at it. So you've listened a lot, you've read a lot, you've learned a lot from them. The one question you asked them yesterday that I thought was great was he was trying to help them create blogs and create websites, and but he said, don't you have a specialty? Like, don't you work with first-time home buyers? Don't you work with agricultural properties? Don't you work with Baltimore City? And I could see these agents kind of like, because you were trying to help them
don't
create
try to
a brand.
go do it all. If you chase
yeah.
too many rabbits, you won't do any, and that's one of my biggest things with AI.
Yeah.
And where we're at with it. You'll sit in a class and you'll hear, I need to be putting out content that answers people's questions, because we are in the era now of like people are just wanting the answer from AI more than ever. I think we're close to like 50% of all consumers will just take that AI answer and run with what it tells them to do. And if it's making a recommendation for who you should work with or like the areas you should be in.
How do they measure that? I'm just thinking, they know that 50%.
Like you look at web traffic, like when someone Googles something and it just reads that first part and good, I'm good.
Who's the best title company in Maryland? You go title,
so,
and then just go.
Yeah, so like if you don't have that kind of content out there where it's like best title company in Maryland is, and then positioning you as that, you're not going to show up in that search result necessarily. Another company who has that will.
Right.
Same with real estate agents. And to your point about my biggest, I guess, fear, if you will, because we're all human, we all have these fears. And in this space of speaking and training, one of my biggest pet peeves is not being current or just rehashing the same stuff over and over. For me, that's a big like fear of like, I never want to be that person. So it drives me to always be plugging into the latest. Like I have a lot of windshield time, a lot of travel time. So I'm always listening podcasts on the industry, real estate, the economy, AI specifically a lot, because I think you have to be, AI is moving so fast. What worked 6 months ago that you're doing is now, there's a way better way, right? So to your point, because that's the case, I also never want to be in a room and be tone deaf. And I think that's key for all of us. Like you have to look, it's back to that sales philosophy, the lens of who is receiving what I'm giving. What are they needing from this? Where is it going to make sense? Because I've seen people get up there and say, you can do this with AI and you can do this with AI. And the agent walks out and says, my system's totally different and that won't work. And they just listen and it's in one ear and out the other.
Well,
so I've tried to get
it's that lack of applicability on it, where and they're not, and it's actually in some ways that they're not actively listening for the underlying root. They're listening for the answer.
Correct, or like the workflow and system that works with their tech stack or their flow, right?
I draw it as a so there's someone who is my original mentor in the title business, and he actually used to work for F&F, and his name was Tim Weddle.
And, I love Tim.
Tim is.
I saw him last night, actually.
You did not?
I did.
Yeah,
we had a little retirement dinner for Carson.
For Carson, another great person. And
one of the someone told me one of the original kings of title in Maryland.
It's true.
Carson.
Did you know Mary Lou?
Yes.
Mary Lou.
Yeah, she was.
Her last name was Rice. Mary Lou Rice.
Yeah.
All these great people in the title world. It's
well, Tim. Tim taught me how to underwrite transactions.
Yeah.
And he took me when I knew nothing. And I'd call him and ask him a question, right? Because, like, to your point, before you and your brother got into the space, there was the donut drop game by the reps, and then but we got really good underwriting, right?
Right.
And that was largely, if you had good underwriting that could help you solve problems, that was part of how you got deals done.
Right.
And one day, Tim. And I just had a fantastic relationship with him, and he really kind of took me under his wing from a mentor status. And I called and asked him a question. He said, I'm no longer going to answer your questions. I was like, no, but this is your value, Tim. And he goes, you're asking me the wrong questions. I said, well, what questions should I be asking you? And he said to me, you do not ask me for the answer on this particular transaction. You need to start asking me questions about my thought process of how I'm getting to this result. And what he was really doing was showing me the way of how to underwrite, because there's not a single answer for any particular question. There's factors that move the needle one way or the other.
It's like a roadmap.
It's a roadmap. And so you have to understand, how do you start analyzing the situation, and then, because all part of underwriting is risk management and risk mitigation. And so ultimately, when we got to it, he taught me how to go down there. And then when we'd have conversations subsequently, I'd be like, all right, Tim, here's what it is. This is the problem. I've ruled out this risk, this risk, this risk. This is the research I've done. There's this, this, and this. Based off all these factors, are we able to insure on this? And you just get a, yes, you may insure. Now, what it allowed him to do was just answer the real question, showing him you had done all the legwork, showing him you had seen all the
You've
corners.
developed, right?
And in so many ways, when I think about what you're talking about with working with agents on it, they want where is my silver bullet? It's not about that silver bullet. It is, where is the thought process? What is my game plan?
Right.
Where are the
do you get
factors
there?
that are going into play? Because to your point, if you're I'm an equine specialist, and I'm a waterfront specialist, and I do short-term rentals, and I do this and I do that, there are so many nuances as to all those things. You cannot be good at all of them. And I don't care what someone tells me. I don't care what BS they want to put out there and say that I'm a specialist in all of that. There are people who know certain areas of this way better. And if you got real deep into that,
there's a difference between a vision and what you would like to go toward versus what you actually do, and what the
it's
proof
based
in the
on
pudding of.
geography too. Like we talk about, Baltimore County versus Anne Arundel County versus Baltimore
Absolutely.
City, and there's experts, or there's relationships with the clerks. I mean, we do mostly e-recording, but if you're not e-recording and you're manual recording, and something gets held up, and you need to call someone in Baltimore City. I was this morning. I was talking with Stacy Gillespie, who's one of our underwriters, and I loved hearing Brad's description, because that's exactly what she does. Like, she researches this, and when you read her emails, I don't know, our brains work similarly. So I love following her thought process. But we have a example, tail from the table, right? We haven't settled yet, but the property references, the legal description references a revised plat, which is attached. Well, guess what? It's not attached to the deed. And so you have to then get really creative. Like, well, what about the property next door? Or, let's go to the advanced search in plats.net and see if we can find
you got to put all the pieces together. And I think
Yeah.
that's interesting. And where this ties into with AI too is AI is changing the title space very quickly.
Yeah, because they find
tremendously.
Those things for
I'm
you.
actually spending a lot more time there in the last couple of months.
You mean what do you mean spending
AI in the title space
versus in real estate? In
I mean,
general,
the speaking requests are always there. The training requests are always there. I think from the real estate space, I've been fortunate enough to start working with a couple like top producers in different areas who have become friends, and then they're that's where you stay current on. Okay, this is where AI actually plugs and plays within the real estate transaction. Now I'm trying to solve that more, not by myself. We have an entire great team of people at Fidelity who are working on this, but the AI implementation in title agencies, because I believe, like Mark Cuban came out and said it a few months ago, like there's going to be two types of companies: those that are really great at AI, and then the companies that they put out of business. And with where AI is advancing and what is perfectly capable now, I still see such a lag in our industry. And it kind of reminds me when I first joined the title industry, it was like Tim and I still felt like in a lot of ways it was still back in the 90s with some of the paper processes and picking up paper policies and like,
well, it's so there's two sides of AI in this space as far as I see it.
Yep.
And I'd like to go down
I
each
think
path
we're
on it.
aligned. I'm probably going to align on it, but go ahead.
I think there's AI in processes, procedures, and how that supports the consumer's experience and how it creates workflow efficiencies.
Yep.
And then I think the second part is where we're also really dabbling a lot in it right now is in search and abstracting.
Right.
And what they didn't think that it was going to be able to do, it is getting a lot better at.
Much faster.
Much
right?
faster than they thought that it could.
Because a lot of people sit there and think, man, technology has always taken time to develop. Well, that we've never had a technology that's developed in lightning speed like AI has.
Well, and I think that the interesting
new
part for us
frontier.
is we've started running our abstracts through our title production software. We have invested in the AI overlay within that infrastructure.
Yep.
And what it's allowing us to do is we're using it more as like a backup on some things in the underwriting and that part of the title examination. We have had it find 4 total failures of title just in the last 3 weeks alone on transactions that, frankly, may have passed hands 5 or 6 times since this failure occurred that it was able to pick up on.
Yep.
And it's just very interesting because a lot of times when people have conversations about, do I need to get an owner's policy? Do I need to do this? Well, it's a new construction. Why would we ever,
Illegal subdivision?
It could be illegal subdivision. It could
a million things.
There's a property up in Pasadena that if you start surveying it from one side of the subdivision, you get one end of the lot lines in the middle. And if you start it at the other, there's a missing 10 feet depending on which way you come through the
Good
subdivision.
luck if your house was built on one of those.
So really, title insurance, the way your whole description, this search can
it's
be
uncovering a lot
faster,
of,
but it's going to be more important to have title insurance, perhaps.
It's creating more of a. I do have some personal thoughts on whether it could be creating more of a casualty type insurance product long term, which may be fine. I think as an industry, and I'll save this for a different conversation.
I was going to say.
Well, there's
no, it is. I know where you're going with that.
There's a future of the business that I think people aren't watching because they have their heads down, just trying to get deals done right now, and they're not seeing the evolution of where this industry is going.
Yeah,
and so many people just want it to not change. Well, there's going to be efficiencies. We as an industry don't talk about title curative work at all. We don't talk about it, and it's
all the
unless
time.
we're trying. Well, I think we do when we have a buyer who doesn't want.
But you're already
title
the problem
insurance.
with that. You're already behind the 8 ball when you're trying to have that conversation because it's like then you're trying to sell them, and no one wants to be sold, right? If you're already in that position where someone's questioning something and you're like, all right, I'm going to come in and lay the hammer down on the things you don't understand, we as an industry don't talk. I mean, year to date, we're at 7-8% of our transactions have some sort of title curative work on them. And the numbers actually going up because of AI. They're uncovering
which is
more
actually
curative
anti
work.
to what a lot of people have said. Like, AI is going to miss a lot of things. It's going to create a lot of
catching way more things. Than
it is
everything.
because human. I hate to say it, but humans are a lot less consistent in how we show up day to day and do our jobs than a computer like that.
Now
we
that
have
takes
with AI.
that takes us down the other.
It's not the whole. It's not the whole thing, but it's the part now. It's like it's that second, third set of eyes, double, triple check things, and it's finding things that humans are missing. And so, like, how many more examples are there of that? I'm sure there's some things AI could miss, but to your point, it's getting a lot better. And I agree with your 2 pillars. There's the core functions of processing, opening an order, ordering abstract,
Balancing a
curing,
CD.
preparing a commitment, CD, post closing. Like that's the core business. But then everything around that, another agency owner I was talking to the other day, is like everything around that is the client experience, how the people interact with the software and the work.
Well, and
those are those 2 pillars
Brain
that AI can
power.
do a lot within now.
Well, the interesting part about that is from an operator's perspective, we're building it into we're using it in both ways, right? But it's important to really draw the paths that you're talking about on it.
Yep.
And there's something that I'll tell you the thing that keeps me up at night about it. We're building it into our workflows to where it's enhancing either speed to communication, triggering different things, accuracy. We've got it set for quality control measures. We're doing a lot of stuff with it within our deployment. And we're about to really unleash it here in about 2 weeks.
Because you've been in like that pilot test phase.
And I didn't want to like kind of give it
Too much.
I needed it.
I agree.
A
This is a
test.
great
Marinate.
tip, by the way, for anyone listening
Yeah.
who's rolling out AI in your business. Especially when you're dealing with a lot of clients and a lot of transactions, you gotta pilot it, pick one thing, focus on it, pilot it, get it ironed out, and then deploy it.
I literally yesterday I
Yeah.
did something with it. I printed out the prior document and I printed out the document I modified using it, and as my quality control, literally printed it out and sat side by side to make sure that the only change that it actually made was the change that I requested. And that was like, that's how deep into quality control I got, because it was modifying a title insurance commitment, which is a contract to insure. So it was important that
Yeah,
it didn't
for
goof
sure.
that up.
Right.
The thing that I'm finding interesting with this, and going back and thinking about unreasonable hospitality, there are so many things that we can automate by doing it. One of my good friends is in the middle of buying a house right now.
Yeah.
And he said to me, I was riding in my truck the other day, and my brother was with me, and he was listening to the phone conversation. And this is someone I've known since I was 8 years old. We've got some miles under the belt between us on this thing. And he was like, man, I can really see that you guys are really, headed into the automation world, because he was getting so many automated communications, because we've built these workflows to get really necessary information, but at these different time levels. And I've been so focused on trying to get the automations to work right. What I haven't figured out quite yet is how do I then interject humans back into the process to where the consumers are getting that hospitality alongside of the efficiency that they're getting in the service. And that's where I think we can go too far.
Agreed.
And people are craving human interaction.
I think there's
in a way.
I think in this space there's two things to think about. The first is it inbound or outbound? Outbound, you can have a lot of reputational risk if it's an outbound thing you're sending and it's not necessarily received well, or it feels like over automation, or it feels like I'm getting inundated, I'm getting spammed. Inbound is different. We're seeing consumer behavior with inbound. When someone reaches out to the company and says, I need to check on the status of something, when you have an AI that can talk to them and actually go get the answer from the software and deliver an answer to them, and it talks to them just like a human, we're seeing like 80% of consumers, a couple companies have tested this, where they'll have an option that says, hey, I'm the assistant here. I'm happy to go get this for you. But if you want to wait and talk to your, for example, processor, I can route you to their voicemail and they'll get back with you as soon as they can. Just seen over 80% of people opt to go with inbound with the AI agent to get the answer that they need.
Wow.
So big difference. I think you got to look at that.
When I think
inbound, outbound.
And the part about that too, I think, is there's a human component of,
you can still do it.
you're giving me the
You're giving
option.
a
It's an
choice.
option.
So like if I'm doing
Right.
it outbound,
Right.
you're not getting the option to opt into that communication that way necessarily. Like it's just getting pushed out.
Yeah.
I think
I have a good example. We have automations related to wires, because those are incredibly important for buyers to get their wires out. And I had a transaction that was Monday morning, and Friday was Juneteenth, and we're still not used to that holiday being a federal holiday and a banking holiday. So
Right.
I sent a personal email to the buyer saying, just don't forget, you've got our wire instructions, but it's really important that you get this out today, Thursday, because your settlement's Monday morning.
Mm-hmm.
And that was important in this transaction, that I reached out like that, because the buyer referred to our automations, and I said, but I sent you a personal email reminding you, so you
the
do
interesting
have
part
to
of
put
the,
those out
the,
there.
the part of automations that I do like is and this is where we are trying to automate certain parts of the process and then humanize other parts.
Right.
I think the most difficult part, I may have talked about this on the podcast previously, but we are trying to build a system that has to service someone from the age of 18
Right,
to
that
like
is true.
95.
Yeah.
That is a wide band
Very much.
to try and service what they want.
Different types of work who understand wires, or someone that's never done a wire, someone in finance versus someone that's an artist. I mean, it's a totally different personality.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to build this thing for the first-time home buyers,
First-time home
so it's a
buyers.
different experience for them. Because and the other interesting part about it is there's certain like base things that you need to get out to people, in my opinion, And then there's certain people that crave more information. And then there's people who are like, look, I don't really want to be bothered. So,
just let me know the important
Pick
things
the
I actually
scale.
know.
You think you could, like,
You know
I'm the
what?
buyer that wants to be number one, or I'm the buyer that, like a
fun-
temperature gauge, and then you send out information.
It's
I
funny
don't
you
know.
bring this up. Like I was talking to a real estate broker the other day. They actually just rolled out a new platform they're building, and I think they're going to make it available. But it's when you start working with a client, it's kind of like the onboarding, and they actually select kind of their track of what they want with communication.
Yeah.
When there's an update, do you need a phone call, or are you okay if we send you an automated message? Do you need this? Do you need that? And I think in a multi-generational situation, which we find ourselves in, I think stuff like that could become very valuable. Again, giving the option.
When I think
And
that-
people
Then
feel
they're
like they get a
involved.
little bit of, it takes a little more to build. You need the right platform for it. But I think when you give people options, that's that unreasonable hospitality of, I'm not just, it's not our way or the highway, like it or love it. Like, we're not going to pick up the phone. Some people may really need that. And from a relationship standpoint, even with our clients, realtors and lenders, some folks may want that versus, auto emails every 2-3 days.
Well, and I think, it's a really good conversation. And I think this is one that's going to be evolving
100%.
like very rapidly.
Yep.
As this technology changes so quickly on it. And a big part of that is truly going to be like, can we adapt quickly enough? And I consider us on the forefront of forward facing and looking at trying to be thinking about this from the future. I have a lot of competitors that are still operating like it's 1995 and are not making some of those modifications that I think are critical because we're having a conversation yesterday. There's so many people that aren't taking the appropriate protections about all of the different types of fraud right now. And it's just a matter of time. And so some of these things where people are like, well, I want to opt out. And I'm like, I can't opt out with good conscience of informing you about wire fraud.
Yeah,
risk or how to
non-negotiables.
safely-
Yeah.
Non-negotiables.
Yeah, there's
This is
certain
what
things
you're
there,
absolutely
yeah.
going to
Right.
hear about. This is what you're absolutely going to be disclosed about, because we have to, right? And there's certain, you're going to have to use this platform for this because we're not going to accept wire instructions any other way to protect
And
you.
you don't want your social security
Right.
numbers
So-
out there and your loan numbers
Yeah,
and
but
all
I think
your
those are
private
defensible,
information.
right?
Yeah,
And I think
yeah,
with
easy.
the whole evolution of AI, just something to think about for everybody. AI can be the technology that actually gets us back to being more human. If you're implementing 5 solutions in your software that's saving your processors an hour and a half per file, sure, if it gets busy, they can just handle more files. But in the meantime, if the market's flat, where are they spending their time? So on the back end, are you creating the systems to say, processors, we actually want you to make a personal call to do this part of the transaction now because you have the time to do it. We're giving you the time back.
Andrew.
And the relationship that you can help build with the client and their client, that's the highest value activity and the best use of your time. And I think if you always focus on where can I automate the crap that keeps my eyeballs glued to a screen and then reinvest that time in a relationship somewhere, that's the discipline I think we have to build. Again, I
point.
talk to brokers all the time that are like, I want to plug my database and I want the AI to do this and do that and do that. And I'm like, I think it's a miss. You need AI automating your CMAs. You need AI automating your research. You need AI automating like when you get the documents and the filling out a contract and like the things, because AI will do a better job writing a contract. You all see it every day, like contracts
Yeah,
that are written
yeah.
poorly. There's a lot of technologies in the works right now that are working on, and every state's weird because like Maryland's county to county or association to association contracts, but that's a whole other story. But that's coming in the
That's
next
a
couple of
conversation
years.
for a
And you
different
know,
day.
our
'cause
bar-
that one I could probably rail. I mean, well, and the
Wait,
problem
you
is
see what I'm saying though? So it's like,
well, even did you
don't
talk
replace
about,
the
yeah.
relationship. You have, I pull rooms all the time with agents, and I'm like, how many of you have people in your database you haven't talked to in 90 days, 6 months,
Yeah.
a year?
You're getting time back. You can do that now.
That's the
Yeah,
discipline, right?
yeah.
If you're going to use AI to save time in the actual nuts and bolts of a transaction, and you want to be a high-performing, successful individual, you have to have the discipline to then reinvest that time into those high-value activities.
Well, I think that directly goes back to the base roots of where our relationship started. And it's about having a cadence and being, someone referred to it yesterday as being, how they say it, disciplined operators. And whether you talk about that as running a business or you talk about it as a salesperson
Or life.
or life,
Right.
just, there's so many different parts of that, right?
Yeah.
There's being disciplined on whatever you're doing is critical. And I think for salespeople, and it's really interesting. Some people have a difficult time being considered a salesperson. I view us all as salespeople in different parts of life. Betsy's one, but she's smirking at me because
I'm happy to admit I never thought of myself as a salesperson.
And she didn't, but
which typically make the best salespeople.
Well, and
by the
because
way.
It's
authentic.
She's authentic. She cares, and she's incredibly technically knowledgeable about it, and cares about her clients and everything. And I look at it at more along the lines of sales is not a dirty word. Salespeople get a bad rap. If you have someone who goes out and says they're asking questions, being an active listener, they have a technical experience to understand that they have a solution for your problem.
They're confident that they can be the problem solver for whoever they're going to talk to.
Right, and there's people that I come at. Look, I've said this to our team about 10,000 times at this point. And I'll look into the camera when I say this. I am not for everyone. I get it. Some people don't like this hat.
It's a reality.
Say the hat.
It's a reality of life.
That's fine. As my wife says to me, like, you're already married, bro. You don't need everyone to like you out there. But you ultimately you sit there and say, I'm not for everyone, and that's okay.
And it's freeing.
And for the people who I am for the people that know I will do anything to get their transaction across the finish line that's legal and ethical, will I solve and troubleshoot with you? Absolutely. I'm not for everyone. The second people understand that in their lives, it's so critical, but it's also part of being disciplined to be who you are and being authentic. Because I think there are too many people that put on a different facade for the world when they're in this sales work mode. And I think in some ways that's what gives salespeople a bad rap, is because if you're authentic and you're technically sound in whatever you're selling and you're creating solutions, it is one of the most satisfying jobs in the world, as far as I'm concerned. I love that job.
I couldn't agree more.
And there's just too many people give it a bad rap. And I'm like, look, there's some of the most successful people I know in this world are really great salespeople. And that's not a bad thing. That means that they understand how to actively listen, provide solutions, and get people to the promised land.
Agreed. And to what you're saying, though, being the same, being consistent in the way you show up everywhere, I think that's a hard skill for a lot of people.
Yeah.
'Cause there's always going to be some performative, right? Like, I'm not going to be like shouting quotes in life to people around me like I would from a stage, or like being as like hyped up, right? But I think when you look at the body of work and the relationships you build over time, measure that, like, are you the same person in all those aspects? And when you are, I think people can tell. And I think that's how relationships then form. And the people that don't love it fall off.
They're transactional.
And that's okay. They'll
just
don't hang your identity on I guess there's a lot of head trash when someone says no, or they go a different direction, or like something happens. And if you were true and like you followed your processes and you did a good job, and there wasn't the alignment, it was like this, that's okay.
Well, and that's the tough part for some people, where they can't handle rejection.
Yeah.
And rejection, to me, you have to understand, are they rejecting what you're selling? Have you found the right solution for them? Are they rejecting you personally because you're not a great fit?
You can't take it personally, though.
You can't. You shouldn't. You shouldn't.
I try
There's a lot of people that
draw
are like,
a line.
yeah, they can get too emotionally over the line on that.
It's always a great help me understand conversation. And if you can, in a way, detach enough to not make it all about you and just help me understand where this didn't go right, or why you chose to go a different direction, just so that I can learn and understand better, that's always a very helpful conversation to have. Sure. Either about you or your company or your team. And I've had to have those many times over the years in this industry, because there's 80 people involved with our agents. And so something over here might go bump in the night, impacts the relationship over here. And now we have to figure out where we went wrong, and is it repairable or not, right? So the overarching lesson, I think, is I think everyone sometimes needs to take a collective breath when it comes to this type of stuff. Absolutely. And when there's conflict of some kind, or there's, yes, we're all acquired tastes, and maybe there's a business relationship more than a personal relationship, or understand that there's levels to that and don't take it personally.
100%.
You live your life the way you live it, and you have a voice too, right? Everyone has a voice. Everyone has the ability to reach out and have great, like you said earlier, relationship conversations. Yeah. I think that's one of the most important things people can do is appreciate the diversity, appreciate that people are different. It doesn't have to be 100% across the board that you're liked and loved and
right.
You know.
And I love that human touch because we started this conversation with AI, which is totally on the other end of the spectrum of the human touch and the personalities and the transparency and the relationships.
We need to bring in a psychotherapist
that's a great idea.
to talk about the navigate. And I mean, look, and we're out of time for today, but I think ultimately, even navigating rejection, we could probably talk an hour just on.
I like talking about it, but I'm not licensed to talk about it.
We're going to talk to Andrew about his. We're going to set Andrew up.
We're going to set Andrew up in the streets with some people. So.
There you go. Great.
Well, I truly appreciate your time.
You're awesome.
Thanks for sitting at our table.
Hey, this is fun, and big congrats to y'all.
Yeah.
And,
well, you helped us, Andrew. You helped launch this. So
you're the ones executing and making the consistency happen, and Vicky and team and all doing a great job. So.
Well,
kudos to you. Proud of you all doing it.
Well, and we appreciate the guidance along the way. It's truly been a great relationship and partnership over the years. And, I think anyone who knows you knows that you are disciplined in your work and how you do your things, and a great example for people to live out there. And I appreciate the insight about everything from, to your point, AI, the human element still doesn't there's still some basics of what we do. So.
Yep.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us at the seat at the table, and we will see you next time.
See you next time.
See ya.